Brothers and sisters of Stafford, rejoice, for he will be rising soon. Come forth, all ye sinners, and lay your lives down at his feet. The old ways and his ways are one. I'm going to read from the good book, Devil's Creek by Todd Keisling. Get you some good church. Our prophet is sleeping, child. Would you baptize yourself in the blood of midnight and become an infant in his cosmic womb? Would you seek rebirth in his court of bones and serve on your knees in a palace of fire? Woo! Come one, come all, you sinners of Stafford, come down to Devil's Creek on that church on Cavalry Hill and get you some of that good old-time religion. Join me in a song, brothers and sisters. Sinners, raise up your voice. Give me some of that old-time religion. Some of that old-time religion. Give me some of that old-time religion. It's good enough for me. Did y'all hear that too? That was weird. I don't know what that was. Some kind of radio interference or something. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and get started. What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and today I've got another book review for you guys. And I'm going to be talking about Devil's Creek by Todd Keisling. This is from Shamrock Publishing. It is out already. It did come out back on June 16th. I was lucky enough to receive an ARC from the publisher for review consideration. So thank you to Shamrock for sending this my way. I really, really appreciate it. I guess it was sometime around the end of 2019. I made a video of my most anticipated releases for 2020. Devil's Creek was on that list, and it did not disappoint in the least bit. This is the best small town horror novel I've read in a long, long time. I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for you guys and then get into my thoughts and everything about the book. About 15 miles west of Stafford, Kentucky lies Devil's Creek. According to local legend, there used to be a church out there, home to the Lord's Church of Holy Voices, a death cult where Jacob Masters preached the gospel of a nameless God. And like most legends, there's truth buried among the roots and bones. In 1983, the church burned to the ground following a mass suicide. Among the survivors were Jacob's 6 children and their grandparents, who banded together to defy their former minister. Dubbed the Stafford Six, these children grew up amid scrutiny and ridicule, but their infamy has faded over the last 30 years. Now their ordeal is all but forgotten, and Jacob Masters is nothing more than a scary story told around campfires. For Jack Trimley, one of the 6, memories of that fateful night have fueled a successful art career and a lifetime of nightmares. When his grandmother Imogene dies, Jack returns to Stafford to settle her estate. What he finds waiting for him are secrets Imogene kept in his youth, secrets about his father and the church, secrets that can no longer stay buried. The roots of Jacob's buried God run deep, and within the heart of Devil's Creek, something is beginning to stir. So usually with my reviews, I try not to compare one book to another book or one author to another author. I try to let the books and authors speak, their work speak for themselves. I've done it before. I'm going to do it again for this one, for Devil's Creek. This one definitely deserves a comparison, in my opinion. This is the best small town horror novel since that little vampire book written by a guy named Steven. You all know what I'm talking about. I talk about it all the time. Get out of here. It's not your video. Sorry about that. But in all honesty, Devil's Creek is an amazing novel. If you've been a fan of the channel for any amount of time, you know that Salem's Lot, the picture I just put up, that is my favorite Stephen King book of all time. And that's probably my favorite horror novel of all time. Devil's Creek, it stands toe-to-toe and shoulder-to-shoulder right next to Salem's Lot, in my opinion. If Todd Keisling is not a household name, I'm sure that he will be really soon after this gets out to the people and more word gets around about how great this book is. Like the synopsis said, we start out in 1983 in Stafford, Kentucky. We're sort of thrown right into the thick of it. The beginning part 1, feels like it could be like the third act in a movie or a book. Chaos ensues. out in the ancient forest, the Daniel Boone National Forest. There's mass suicide, and in the aftermath, the church is burnt down and there's nothing left but ash and cinders. The 6 children that survived the ordeal, they're dubbed the Stafford Six. Rumors circulate about them throughout town. Those rumors turn to myth. Those myths turn to legends. And it's all sort of, like it says, forgotten. And really all that's left is ghost stories and campfire stories told to scare your friends. But the best horror stories and the best ghost stories always have the littlest bits of truth to them. For those that don't know, I listen to the Ink Heist podcast and Todd Keisling. He's been on there numerous times, but one specific episode, he was talking about this. Stafford, Kentucky is a fictional town, but it's based on Corbin, Kentucky, where Todd Keisling grew up. Devil's Creek, it is a real road. That's a picture of the real street sign. It's a road that just goes out into the Daniel Boone National Forest. And Todd said there did used to be a church out there long ago. It did actually burn down in real life. So there are grains and hints of truth in Todd Keisling's Devil's Creek story. And again, the best ghost stories, horror stories, whatever, they all do have the little bit of truth to them. After that initial opening in 1983, we get a time jump about 30-something odd years later. All the Stafford Six, the children, they're all grown up now. They've all gone on and tried to go on about their lives and continue. And this is where the bulk and the rest of our story takes place with the Stafford Six. Jack Trimley, he's one that sort of got away. He moved out, moved away. He comes back to Stafford because of his grandmother's death. Imogene, she's passed away. He has to settle her estate. And from there, this is sort of where the rest of our story takes place. Something out in Devil's Creek all those years ago, something evil was buried out there, and it has taken root. It's been slumbering and festering and spreading through the rich, dark soil, tainting the very ground beneath Stafford itself. And the time has come, and soon, as it says on the synopsis, that evil is going to start to stir once again. I don't really want to say too much more about the plot itself, other than what I've already said, reading the synopsis and whatnot. But sort of our two main protagonists, I would say, are Jack Trimley and his grandmother Imogene. We get lots of points of view in the book. I'd say those are the main two, Jack and Imogene. And Jack and the rest of the Stafford Six, as well as the citizens from the town, they must be held accountable for the sins of their past, and they have to face down the horrors from their nightmares and their childhood once and for all. Some of the best aspects of a small town horror book is the town itself. The town itself, has to become a character all on its own, and Stafford definitely achieves that in the book under Todd Keisling's penmanship. Based on real life Corbin, you can tell there's been a lot of love and time and care poured into the world building of Stafford. Feels like a real place. Feels like you go there and drive down the road, drive down its main street, see its cemeteries and its high school, and go visit the restaurants and whatnot. Feels like a realized real place you could go. Another thing along with that is great characters. There's great expansive characters in this book, sweeping characters from our main big characters all the way down to maybe a paragraph or so characters that we get to meet, from the little old lady next door to the gas station attendant to the town crazy to the local sheriff. No matter how small the character is, each character on the page, if we get something from their perspective, they feel fleshed out, they feel like a real person, and all of their intentions and their role in the book all takes place for the story. It all progresses the story forward. It doesn't feel like there's any wasted character time, any wasted story time. Everything in the book has a purpose and a point to progress this story forward. I loved this book. Like I said, the best small town horror books have the great town and the great characters, and this has great character development for not only the main characters, but those small characters as well. And like I said, they all have a part to play, no matter how small the characters are. There's horror in this book. It's cosmic horror and small town horror and cult horror. Cult horror is sort of hit or miss with me. It can either be great or it can be lackluster. Obviously, this one was great. And with that, there's always a charismatic leader and a believable reason why people are following him and doing, or her, following him or her and doing whatever they are that they're doing. It's all wrapped up in religion. Sort of the tagline for the book, give us that old-time religion. And I feel like the religious fanaticism makes for an even scarier religious cult, because you see that happen in real life, these sort of religious zealots and fanatics. It's really easy to take and twist, someone's doctrine, religious doctrine, and have it point in a different direction, have it point to where you want it to go. And it's really easy to twist the minds of people who are religious in such that almost frenzied state. So that was another aspect I love, the cult aspect. Jacob Masters, he's very charismatic. You can see why people follow him, and you can see how they were corrupted by him. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It took time, and slowly over time, he was able to corrupt them into believing in his own vision about this nameless God that he is believing in. From page 1, there's this sense of dread that lingers throughout the rest of the story. The dread slowly builds and the tension slowly builds as we progress and progress. Like I said, there is horror. There's great body horror in here. There's extreme stuff, but nothing ever felt gratuitous or out of place. It all felt in line with the story that Todd was trying to tell, and some really imaginative and fresh and unlike any other type of horror specific scenes in this that you don't really see anywhere else. At least I've never seen anywhere else. So it felt fresh and new and didn't feel like it was treading the same old horror ground again and again. This is a big book. It was 394 pages. But the actual physical size of the book is large. The font is relatively small. The margins aren't very big. I would say if this was a mass market paperback, it'd probably easily be 500, 600 pages. I felt like a throwback to old school horror that we don't really get that much of anymore. Nowadays, a lot of horror is really short, novella length and stuff, which is completely fine. I do love a good novella. There's just something about the depth of the story here that Todd Keisling wrote that just felt old school horror to me. But in closing, this book, it was insidiously horrific, sprawling, and epic. A masterclass in small town cult horror. Devil's Creek by Todd Keisling is a juggernaut to be reckoned with, wound with tension and an ever-present sense of lingering dread that'll have the reader continue to turn the page to see what will happen next. This is definitely not a book that you want to miss out on if you're a fan of horror at all, a fan of cult stories, of cosmic horror. This is one you must check out. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And the cherry on top for me is that it's set in Kentucky, set in my home state. And Todd Keisling sort of teased on Twitter a little bit the other day. I was sort of joking with some other people, and Todd was tagged on there. But I wish that Todd would sort of create his own Stephen King type connected universe, but have it all set in Kentucky. And he said he is working on another book set in this same Stafford universe. And I cannot wait to get my hands on that. He has another book. It might be a novella called Final Reconciliation. There's small ties from that to this in here, so it's already starting to have a connection, have this little Kentucky cosmic horror universe built, and I'm definitely here for that. I'll go ahead and throw my money at Todd. He can just take it all day long and keep pumping out that Kentucky horror goodness for me, because we don't get books set in Kentucky like this ever. So this was definitely a treat, and that doesn't sway my opinion on it, but it's definitely an added bonus to it all. That's all I have for you guys today. If you can't tell, Devil's Creek was definitely a 5-star read for me. Best horror novel of the year, and definitely one of my favorite horror novels of all time. But that's all I have for you guys today, so thanks for spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.